Taiwan. I'm Int'l with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. The military has confirmed that engine failure was to blame for the crash of a Mirage 2000 fighter jet at sea on Tuesday night. The Air Force is now looking into what caused the jet to lose power mid-air. Jaime Okan has the latest.
This is the moment Air Force pilot Captain Xie Beixun is pulled out of the water and rescued by the Coast Guard. Late on Tuesday, Xie was flying a Mirage 2000 fighter jet during a training exercise when his aircraft lost power and crashed into the ocean in northeastern Taiwan. Air Force officials said the pilot had roughly 1 minute to decide whether he could save the plane or eject. The military is now confirming the aircraft's engine suffered a malfunction and lost thrust before crashing. The Air Force says an initial check before the flight revealed no problems. It is now conducting a more in-depth investigation to figure out what caused the engine failure. The military has since grounded its entire fleet of French-made Mirage 2000 aircraft until further inspection of the other jets. Taiwan originally had 60 of the fighter jets delivered in 1997, but over the years, at least 7 of the aircraft have been lost due to accidents. Taiwan currently has roughly 400 fighter aircraft in service, and officials say that grounding the Mirage fleet shouldn't limit its ability to protect the country.
北中南东我们都有相关的部队在24小时的做轮值战行，对我们空军的战力短时间不会有形成压力跟影响。
Much of the debate around the aircraft incident has revolved around the price of maintaining the Mirage 2000 fleet, as it costs almost triple the amount to fly compared to other fighter jets in Taiwan's arsenal like the US-made F-16. Some analysts now question whether the military should be downsizing the Mirage fleet, especially given the rise in threat from China, which seeks to take Taiwan by force if necessary.
因为中国的确对台湾是威胁，那台湾的这个 maintain 的cost 也增加了，可是还在可以承受范围，可以评估的就是把这个 Mirage Free 变成30架。 这样子可以在这个效率跟这个成本上面保持一个平衡。
Taiwan's Air Force told TaiwanPlus that there's no plans to downsize the current fleet of Mirage 2000 fighter jets. Instead, they say they're prioritizing the current investigation to understand how one of the aircraft could suddenly lose power. Howard Zhang and Jaime Okan for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is set to start taking delivery of a new batch of F-16V fighter jets from the U.S. later this month. Manufacturer Lockheed Martin expects to hand over the first plane at the end of September at a ceremony with military and defense officials. Taiwan has ordered a total of 66 new F-16Vs from the U.S. The first jet was scheduled to be delivered last year, but was delayed due to supply chain disruptions. German media says 2 of the country's naval vessels will transit through the Taiwan Strait for the first time in 2 decades. Meanwhile, China has warned Germany against the move, saying it will endanger China's sovereignty and security. To learn more about Germany's increasing naval presence in the Indo-Pacific, our reporter Adol Brauer spoke to Matthew Sussex, an assistant professor at the Griffith Asia Institute.
We have learned that 2 German ships will transit through the Taiwan Strait. What's the significance of Germany's move?
This is, I think, the first time since 2002 that German naval vessels have gone through the Taiwan Strait. So it's been more than 20 years. And I think, the timing is relatively significant because it reflects German concerns that China's rhetoric on Taiwan may be about to ratchet up even more considerably than it previously has. There have been reports, for instance, in the Chinese media that there are attempts by Taiwan to go down the independence path again. And I think that Germany perceives this as potentially quite hostile rhetoric that could lead to misunderstandings. And so hence the idea, I think, to get involved militarily in freedom of navigation operations in the Taiwan Strait, to send a message to Beijing that Germany really hopes that strategic stability is the watchword of the day.
China is Germany's biggest trading partner. Is Germany hinting at a shift in its relations with China with this transit?
I think that there has been a bit of a realization in Germany that China represents a fairly long-term strategic challenge to the interests not just of the United States, but also to major European economies. And this was reflected, of course, in the recent statement that came out of the NATO summit, which identified that China was a strategic challenge. And I think that whereas Germany does have to balance its economic relationship with Beijing with its strategic priorities, nonetheless, I think this is a signal that it is alive to the potential for misadventure, conflict in the Indo-Pacific, and that it is Berlin's preference that the status quo remains.
In 2020, Germany published its Indo-Pacific strategy, indicating Berlin's plan to increase its presence in the Indo-Pacific. Is this transit part of those plans?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that Germany, a couple of years ago, did go down the path of having an explicit strategy on the Indo-Pacific. A number of other countries haven't. But it's interesting to see that not just Germany, but France, the UK, are getting increasingly involved in the Indo-Pacific in a strategic sense. And whereas perhaps they don't have an enormous amount of military capability to sort of ultimately tip balances of power or anything else, it does signal that Germany is looking beyond the borders of the European Union and beyond the sort of transatlantic alliance space in terms of its security.
That was Matthew Sussex with the Griffith Asia Institute. How can Taiwan protect itself against China? That's the question being discussed in Taipei at a forum on security. Tiffany Wong was there.
The annual Taipei Security Dialogue is bringing together international leaders and experts to discuss the Asia-Pacic's biggest topic, China's threat to Taiwan. Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Kelly Craft, gave a keynote speech praising Taiwan's commitment to democracy in contrast to China.
Beijing wants the world to believe that freedom and Chinese culture are incompatible. The Chinese people value order over liberty and prosperity over democracy. Taiwan is showing the world that democracy is the path to prosperity, that when freedom and Chinese culture mix, they produce a kind of dynamic, prosperous civilization we see here today.
During her time as ambassador to the UN, Craft had met with Taiwan's former president, Tsai Ing-wen, and also advocated for Taiwan's inclusion in the UN. She was later sanctioned by Beijing for doing so. With U.S. elections looming, Craft, who was appointed by former U.S. President Donald Trump, also offered her advice on what a potential second Trump presidency could look like.
The secret to getting along with Donald Trump is doing your part and carrying your weight. If you're willing to do that, he will be the most reliable friend and ally you can imagine.
Kraft stressed the importance of Taiwan's self-reliance, strengthening its defense capabilities, increasing military personnel, and improving training, in line with Trump's stance on the U.S.-Taiwan partnership. With only 2 months left before the U.S. presidential elections, Taiwan will be eagerly awaiting to find out who will be leading its biggest unofficial ally. Klein Wong and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
President Lai Ching-te has spoken at an event commemorating the 60th anniversary of a key moment in Taiwan's democratization.
50年前，伫迄个专制独裁概念的黑暗年代，咱所敬爱的民教授，唔惊生命危险，发动台湾人民自救运动宣言，这是一个非常伟大的行动。
Authorities arrested political science professor Peng Mingming alongside 2 of his students in September 1964 for attempting to distribute a democratic manifesto. Peng escaped Taiwan in 1970, living in exile for over 2 decades. Although Peng died in 2022, he remains a symbol of Taiwan's democracy movement and continued pushes for transitional justice. People are protesting and striking in Mexico over the passage of a controversial judicial reform bill. Mexico's Senate passed the bill on Wednesday. The new law means judges at every level will now be elected by popular vote. Supporters of the change believe it will make judges more accountable to the public, while critics say it threatens judicial independence and the rule of law. The reform is seen as a win for outgoing President López Obrador, who has had several clashes with Mexico's Supreme Court during his time in office. Taiwan's National Association of the Deaf is planning 2 days of activities ahead of International Day of Sign Language on September 23rd. The events will include performances, lectures, and games. A deaf Japanese artist will also share her story. Taiwan will hold other celebrations of its sign language and deaf culture this month, including a forum held by the Culture Ministry. Taiwanese Sign Language is distinct from Chinese Sign Language and developed directly from Japanese Sign Language during Japan's occupation of Taiwan. Taiwanese artists and workers behind the Paris Cultural Olympiad this summer have received awards for their outstanding performances and events that attracted tens of thousands of spectators. Our reporter Cindy Chi has the details.
Representing Taiwan on the world stage and performing with passion. In Paris this summer, it wasn't just Taiwan's athletes who did the country proud. Its artists and performers did as well. For 15 days, a total of 122 artists performed at Taiwan's pavilion during the Cultural Olympiad, which was held alongside the Summer Games. They delivered more than 50 performances, and tens of thousands of people came to watch. Among those taking the stage was indie rock DJ Elvis Lin, who brought Taiwan's groove to the French capital.
你就觉得说自己没有给台湾人丢脸，真的让现场的法国人，或者是甚至外国人，然后跟我们一起跳舞，跟我们一起快乐，这样子觉得很棒，这样。
The Taiwan Pavilion owed its success not only to the performers, but also to those who worked hard behind the scenes for more than half a year to get ready.
当所有的法规、所有的现场的条件一一都浮现了之后，这些人聚集在一起，要安排所有的事项，包括我们面对极端的天气，我们也面对了现场很有可能会有一些恐攻的考虑。
Even with hundreds of people working to make the event a success, pulling it off for the first time felt like a miracle.
事实上是很多奇迹的时刻，在我们选手得奖的好几个拍点，它都是造成这个画面里面最高潮的时刻。而那一刻，我们也才了解，原来我们是在共同支撑彼此的信仰、信念。那最惊人的奇迹，当然就是最后一刻、最后一场表演，也在林玉婷得到金牌的欢呼底下，全场成为了一个好像台湾的现场。
With the Cultural Olympiad wrapped up, organizers and performers achieved more than just representing Taiwan. They feel they brought the true essence of Taiwan to the world.
其实台湾人表现出来的所有的，不管是作品或者表现出来的真诚、温暖、爱，都可以去感动每一个世界上的人。所以我觉得这是我们站到舞台上、世界舞台上最大的武器跟最大的工具。
Though the Paris Cultural Olympiad has ended, the impact and beauty Taiwan showcased to the world will linger on the international stage. Scott Huang and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website and follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today we head over to Hong Kong, where lanterns are lighting up the night sky ahead of the Mid-Autumn Festival. I'm Int'l. Take care, and I'll see you next time.